What's up, you guys? So, I've been gone about a week or so, just spending time with my family and feeling horrible about the lives that were lost in both Uvalde, Texas and Buffalo, New York. And I've been watching the situation between Monique and DL Hughley play out with a side eye. Both performed in Detroit, Michigan over the weekend, and both apparently had agreements stating that each was supposed to be the headlining act and the act that got paid the most money. But when Monique got there, she says that D.L. Hughley refused to perform unless he closed the show because that's what the promoters promised him. And Monique revealed that she actually had been promised the same thing, and she ended up posting her contract online to prove that she was contracted to be the closing act. D.L. Hughley then posted a deal memo showing that he was supposed to be the closing act, and both of them are still going on about this issue until today. In the videos that you're about to see, D.L. Hughley explains his side of the story and why he hesitated to work with Monique in the first place, and then Monique and her husband/manager Sydney break down their side of the story and how a deal memo is not a binding contract and how they don't do business based off memos. And they explain that Monique has her own contract that she gives to the organizations that book her. So first, let's take a look at what DL had to say, and then we'll get into what Monique and Sydney had to say in response.
I work very hard to control the environment I work in comedically. I only work where I want to work and who I want to work for. I want to work with. I don't work because that is a very precious place to me. I've been offered a gig, a couple of gigs, 3 or 4 gigs to work with Monique in LA, in Brooklyn, in Houston, and I turned them down because I didn't think it would work. So after talking to a lot of people, and one of the very people in this room about how things are different, 2 of the very people in this room, as a matter of fact, and how things are different, and look at how things are coming around, I decided it would be wrong for me not to give somebody a chance based on things that they'd never done to me. That would have been wrong to me. And when she talks, she goes on her diatribe and she talks about me having my feet under her table. That was at her invitation. I was doing a gig in Greenbelt, Maryland. She lived in Baltimore. She was having a fight party. It was I think Evander Holyfield and Mike Tyson, and sure enough, I came to her table at her invitation, and it was a wonderful time. As a matter of fact, it was based on that interaction, along with talking to people, I decided that I would do these gigs. I decided I would do it. And now I know what Tyler Perry knows, I know what Lee Daniels knows, I know what Oprah knows, I know what Steve Harvey knows, I know what Charlamagne the God knows, I know what Netflix knows. Saying yes to Monique is an occupational hazard. Now, we're playing a gig in Detroit this weekend. I know I'm going on at 9:45. I leave the hotel. I get there around 9. Monique had just gotten there. She's supposed to be there at 8:40. She had just gotten there, gone at 8:40. She got there at 8:38. What Monique was trying to do was to slow walk the show. She didn't end up getting on for 30 minutes. The oldest trick in the world is, if I want to change the order and I don't have merit, I'll try to make people wait so long that everybody gets nervous and go, please just go on so we can avoid a conflict. That didn't happen. Monique got on stage. Monique actually felt like she had merit. She would have done 1 of 3 things. Either she would have took it up with the promoter, and she did, and the promoter said, we're going on, and whether you go on or not, that's a different thing. You would have not done it, but she knew she had to get on stage, or she would have been in breach of contract, or she would have come to talk to me. She didn't ever, and I emphatically emphasize this, she never once talked to me. I haven't seen Monique in years. I didn't see her at the venue before, after, or during. I haven't spoken or seen Monique. So if you really thought that you had a legitimate contract dispute, you would have come to me and said, hey, I have this contract and you had this contract. Notice not one thing on that contract, not one person she has on that contract, not one thing happened. Do you know why? Because it wasn't legitimate. And she goes on stage and she proceeds to eviscerate me. Not just me, but Steve Harvey, the sexual, my wife, my dog later on in subsequent conversation. Let me ask you something. What did any of that have to do with an alleged contract dispute? What did Steve Harvey have to do with your contract? What did I have to do with your contract? What did my dog have to do with your contract? What does my wife have to do with your contract? You wrote your contract, you and your daddy. You proceeded to say things that were so patently insulting that it was galling. It was galling. You asked in subsequent conversations why I have a dog, a support dog. What kind of person has a support dog? I have that dog because my father died. my children and family decided they would get a dog from where he was from, and I named the dog after my father. I don't have a dog to keep people away from me. I have a dog so I have my father with me all the time. That is an act of love which you know very little about. You proceeded to assault my sexuality. You have the temerity to assault someone's sexuality, a man's sexuality, given who you lay next to. None of that had anything to do with alleged contract dispute. You could have taken that up with a lawyer. You would have gotten out. You could have not gone on stage, but you knew you didn't have a valid contract. And you do what you always have done. You tried to weaponize black femininity. You tried to turn that audience against me. You tried to burn everything down. Like you do all the time. Who calls Netflix and thinks I can get $10 million because I did the Queens of Comedy? Who thinks you can get on stage and still live off that? I was a king of comedy. You never hear me talking about it because in this business, like any other, it isn't what you have done, it's what you do. That show was one I signed on to do. I made the quintessential mistake, the horrible mistake that like Tyler Perry, like Lee Daniels, like Oprah, like all these people of saying yes to you. And it is an occupational hazard. It is my fault. I have learned my lesson. You didn't just, and the thing that bothers me the most isn't the things that you said, because I know who I am and I know what I do. And I have a pristine reputation. And everybody who knows me know what I'm about. It's this whole, my dear, my babies, I love you for real, which is so transparently false, it is ridiculous. But the thing that was really the most annoying, the thing that was really the most bothersome, is after a terrible couple of weeks where people were being slain in Buffalo, where people were being slain, kids are getting slain in school, and people had come to a comedy show to get away from all of their problems, you besieged them with yours. The one contract that isn't in dispute is the one that the audience had with us to entertain them. But every single time, more and more, you spend half of your time talking about your grievances and what you didn't get and who did this to you. Listen, when you burn things up and you sit back to watch the results of them, she's literally set that stage on fire, said the most incendiary things ever, and I had to go on stage. And she has the temerity to call me a coward. A coward would have left. A coward would have said, I can't go. You didn't even want to go on when you had a contract that you knew that not to be true. You made up this whole narrative that you knew not to be true, and you played that out in front of the audience. And then I had to go on behind you. And you know what you did? You sat back and you tried to watch your damage. You set the stage on fire and you watched what you've done. You know who does that? Arsonists do that. Arsonists set shit on fire and try to see the damage it drives. But I blame myself because I know now what I didn't before. Saying yes to you is an occupational hazard, one I will not repeat. I don't blame you. I wish you well. But when you do the things you do, when everything's about you, when you're vitriolic, when you have all these fights with all of these entities, it is you. Precious was not a movie. Precious was an autobiography. That is who you are, literally. You mad at the contract you and daddy wrote, your daddy? And I don't know why you call a man daddy and you pay for him. That's a son. Let's be clear. I'm not angry with you. I'm angry with me. I did what I knew not to be true. But I'm going to tell you something. When you burn and you destroy and you wreck, you are not a queen of comedy. You're a queen of ashes. Now, while I'm going to go back to work and you get back to your kingdom of smoke. That's a little note from the GED section. We got the jazz report coming up in 15 minutes. It's the D.L. Hughley Show.
So D.L. Hughley was clearly in his feelings about the things Monique said on stage about him and his dog. And he said a lot of insulting things back to Monique that Monique and her husband addressed, in addition to the situation with her having a contract to be the closing act. The following video is highlights of Monique's live video where she was talking and addressing D.L. Hughley directly.
Now I want to address the contract and a deal memo.
May I help you with that? I'm
Yes,
sorry, my
Daddy.
love.
Yes.
Please forgive me.
Hold on, take your time.
So, as not to freestyle, I pulled up the difference between the two. This will give you it in a nutshell. A memorandum of understanding, or the deal memo that D.L. Hughley presented to the people. It says, a memorandum of understanding is a document used to articulate an agreement between two or more parties. The document is likely to detail the scope of the agreement, the length of the agreement, and the state how the agreement can be terminated. A memorandum of understanding is often used before parties are ready to make a formal, let me repeat that. A memorandum of understanding is used before parties are often used before parties are ready to make a formal agreement. Parties can use a memorandum of understanding to outline expectations and responsibilities before a full agreement has been reached. Unlike contracts, however, a memorandum of understanding is not intended to be a legally binding agreement. As a result, parties can typically avoid the agreement with no legal consequences. Let me repeat that, and I'm going to break it down in layman's terms. When they say unlike contracts, however, a memorandum of understanding, which is what DL provided the community with,
Yes.
is not intended to be a legally binding agreement. By legally binding, that means that if you were to try to sue for what was not on a memorandum of understanding, there are no signatures. It is not legally binding. And the agreement, because he made the statement, oh, that came from his company. Well, the MOU came from UTA, which, as it says here, unlike contracts, however, a memorandum of understanding is not intended to be a legally binding agreement. As a result, parties can typically avoid the agreement with no legal consequences. However, that brings you to what Monique presented you with, which was a legal binding agreement. See, one of the key differences between a memorandum of understanding and a legal contract is enforceability. That means the key difference between a contract and a memorandum of understanding is enforceability. Contracts are created when two or more parties intend to create a legally enforceable agreement. Parties enter into contracts after an offer has been accepted with considerations. Parties to contracts are legally obligated to comply with the terms and conditions of the agreement. I'll repeat. I'll repeat. It says, parties to contracts are legally obligated to comply with the terms and conditions of the agreement. If a term or condition of a contract is breached, parties will face legal consequences. So, what does that mean? The documentation, hence the performance agreement that Monique provided you with, is a legally binding contract, which is the reason why, if you looked at the bottom of the contract, you saw initials on both sides, one from the promoter, one from our side. When he said this came from their company, it did, because the artist must have a standard contract she provides as a courtesy to the promoter, because they won't know what it is that they need in order to utilize her services for hire. We wanted to get that granular and specific because DL was comfortable speaking in generalities. And generalities allow things to be hidden, such as the truth.
You know how you keep watching our stories over and over and over again, and the only thing that changes are the faces because the stories remain the same? And if you want our babies to believe that a deal memo is anything close to a contract, what are you feeding us, DL? You know that's a deal memo. You can put anything you want to put in the deal memo. That's what you would like. And D.O. Hughley has yet to still show his signed contract. And this is something else that I want to address to us. When I see the comedians having these conversations, it makes my heart hurt for y'all, because it's making me understand how they are able to exploit, take advantage, use, misuse. I understand how it's able to be done, because when y'all start standing up and you're fighting against a sister that's saying you've got to treat us fairly. You're fighting against a sister that's saying, I earned that position as headliner. Didn't nobody give it to me? I earned that position. You got a sister that's saying, listen, I'm, as D.L. Hughley would say, oh, she just selfish and thinking about herself. Anybody that's selfish, D.L. Hughley, would not take a 13-year hit in their career. See, if I was selfish, I would have taken the $500,000 that Tyler Perry tried to offer.
To be quiet about it.
To be quiet and make it go away. If I was selfish, D.L. Hughley, I would have had the conversation privately. See, I know the moment I say it out loud, I know the ridicule is coming. I know it's coming full force, but you know what? I don't care. Thank you, baby, because I want to address something.
Kick it.
And I want you black women to hear what this black man is saying. I gave Monique a chance. D.L. Hughley said he gave me a chance. Well, here would be the question. To do what? What did you give me a chance to do? You weren't the promoter. No monies came from you. Who are you that you would be giving me a chance? The arrogance that you could speak like that I gave her a chance. To do what, DL? And then if you're going to tell it, please don't mislead people. DL and I were scheduled to do another show together. I want us to address it, and I want y'all to do your homework. If you remember the Super Bowl show that happened in LA, there was a time that D.L. Hughley was on that show. And then there was a time that he just wasn't.
But you were the what on that show?
Headliner. I was the headliner on that show. All these other times that he speaks about, it never came across our desk. So stop trying to pull the wool over the community's eyes. And what I would ask of the community, what I would beg of us, stop being so quick to jump on the bus whichever way it goes down the street. Be brave enough to listen to what it really is, not your emotions, not what you, listen to the facts of what it is. Go back and listen to what I said. I feel sorry for your family. I feel sorry for your wife. Listen to what I said. Listen to what I said when that man said, would your husband, or that woman said, would your husband rather sleep with these people? Ricky Smiley, would you be offended if someone said that about your loved ones? How about you, Roland Martin? Would you be offended if someone asked you that about your wife? How about you, Kim Whitley?
And he was also speaking in reference to wanting to give Monique a chance, and his people had warned him against it, as if he had some sort of prophecy seeing into the future ability. Let's clarify why he felt that way.
Why did he feel that way?
See, there was a show that he was doing on TV One called The D.L. Hughley Show.
Yes.
They reached out to me to ask if Monique would come on the show. I informed them, per her statement to me, that she would not be coming on the show.
Come on. Okay. Thank you. Okay. You got it, sweetness? Okay.
They then came back and asked, why? I said to Monique, would you like me to tell them? She said, please do. I expressed to them, Monique did not feel comfortable going on a show with an individual or supporting a man that she thought was a friend that would blindside her with the question that was ultimately putting our people down. So it was at that moment that DL knew there was a problem between Monique. But if you notice, he never made mention about that.
Why not?
See, we get into the specifics because we don't have anything to hide.
I'm sorry, Daddy. The way D.L. Hughley is playing it is as if I just came from out of left field and just jumped on this man. No, D.L. See, what you can't erase are the interviews. You can't erase your words. Those are your words. You can't erase calling me mentally ill. You can't erase calling me all of these slick things, brother. That's what you said. And now you tender. Now you're trying to trick our community. So when you talking about I turn people against you. No, DL, you do a fine, mighty job of that. What happens is when you get your own medicine, now we sit here. And I want to address something else, Daddy. When I listen to people like D.L. Hughley, and it says, this daddy thing, that's so weird. And I listen to some other people. Isn't it weird that they got us thinking love is weird to each other?
In addition to, they failed to mention that I refer to her as
mama. So we have bought into people having enough reverence and honor and respect to call each other mama and daddy, and they've made our community believe that that is weird? Really? So again, when I say I feel sorry for your family, I stand on what I said. Because anytime you're pouring into the community to show your spouse how much reverence you have for them, how much love and honor, and y'all have bought into it is weird. And I want to address it because I see some people writing down, oh, that go her husband again. That go, yes, there he goes again. God damn it. There he goes. Here he will stay. And because it looks so unfamiliar,
right,
to see a black man standing with his black wife, because it looks so unfamiliar to us, some of us sweet babies will try to pull it apart. And when y'all are saying, Monique, call DL, I have no reason to call DL Hughley. If DL Hughley would like to talk to me and my husband, there's an open invitation. We would love to come on the show. But see, I didn't open up the door to this. DL Hughley opened up the door. Now you want to run and hide and close it, and now you want to talk and act as if you have been victimized. That's where the shame should come in. That's where the shame and the embarrassment should come in. See, there's no interviews y'all can find of me speaking about D.L. Hughley. There's not one interview in the history of interviews that you will find me speaking ill about D.L. Hughley. Not one, but there are several out there of him speaking of me.
And others.
And you're right, Daddy, because it ain't personal. And others. You run your mouth. And now I would like to address the dog and your dad, because I always want to make sure I'm playing folks fairly. See, really read what was written in reference to you having a support dog. Really read it, my sweet babies. Don't let a person like D.L. Hughley cloud your head on what he wants you to know. The words are there. The words are a person that would need a support dog is a person that should never speak ill about anybody because they have their own concerns and issues that they're dealing with. Now, when you speak about your children and your family gave you that dog because you were really close with your dad and the love that y'all have, and you want you, son, don't mess with people that's not messing with you, because you're going to get your ass handed to you. I hope your dad shared that with you, so as you're walking the dog full of love in reference to your dad that is respected, I hope you take the principles and the morals and the values that Mr. Hughley fed into you to say, treat people like you want to be treated. Now, you treated Monique like you wanted to be treated. You talk shit to that baby for years, and then Saturday night, you got tender. How does that make sense for all the comedians that's watching? What are we teaching them, DL? Are we teaching them it's okay to act that way? For the older veteran comedians that got involved into this conversation right here and y'all started speaking foolishly, what are we telling the babies coming behind us? See, that's important to me. I know for some of y'all, it ain't important to y'all. You got yours, they got theirs to get. It's important to me what they see. It's important to me that they did see that contract. I'm glad you showed that contract. Sweet babies, if you are your own business, you should have your own contract. I don't know what kind of business DL does, that he would have a deal memo and say that that is a contract.
And you now know, for those who didn't know before and those who heard, the difference between a deal memo and a legal binding agreement. That deal memo is not enforceable. So why would he give you a deal memo that is not enforceable in the court of law? Look it up for yourself. Versus showing you a contract, a standard contract that has been written up by our attorney. And please understand, in your 32-year history, how many times has this happened?
This is the first time.
And we understand the promoter needed to grow a pair and tell DL what this situation was, because he got on the phone with our attorney and I and said he couldn't understand why DL's people were acting the way that they were acting when we don't have a contract. I made a verbal commitment to him, but we don't have a written contract. Okay. Now, I don't know about you in 2022, because we don't have horses tied up to a stick outside for them waiting for us, where a handshake and your word supposed to mean something. The man said, I didn't have a contract. Now, he could have been lying, but DL provided you with a memorandum of understanding. A memo is what it said. You read it. So when you get a chance to see it, compare it, listen. Don't be afraid to go with what's right, because who's popular.
All right, you guys, so leave a comment and let me know what you think about this whole situation. After hearing everything that each one of them had to say, I still think it's a situation where the promoters promised both of them that they could each be the closing act. I think the promoter was doing bad business, and now Monique and DL Hughley are going back and forth about something that they were both promised. But leave a comment and let me know what you think about it. As always, thanks for watching.
Layla,